close your eyes for just a moment and remember a time when you tried your absolute hardest and yet it fell apart. Maybe it was a critical assignment, a championship loss, or an audition where you didn't make the team. In that split second, the disappointment felt heavy and the consequences weighed you down, clouding up your thoughts. Well, you're not the only one. Everyone from bacteria to human and all life forms in between must cope with that feeling, the feeling of failure. Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Mubashir, and today I want to talk about how these moments are not just roadblocks, rather they are the detours that lead to destiny. We often think one failure is the final judgment on who we are. But that thought is the biggest lie we tell ourselves. Failure is an essential part of growth and development. By embracing our failures and using them as learning opportunities, we can grow and develop in ways we never thought possible. I wanted to ask a question to everyone in this room. Have you ever experienced a failure so catastrophic that it felt like every way out was closed, like doors slammed shut? I have, and for a long time, those doors remained shut. Closed doors that were the direct, agonizing consequence of my own misjudgment. But what if the deepest of failures aren't assigned to quit? Rather, they are the keys that open the door to a much more valuable level of learning. That's what happened to me when I decided to participate in a math puzzle competition that was entirely new to me. I started practicing rigorously as I believed practice equals good results. Fast forward a few weeks, and I found myself sitting at a school I had never been to, anxiously waiting for the test. When I opened the test paper, I realized that the techniques I had spent weeks on practicing suddenly felt useless. I sat there with my hand on my head, struggling to solve anything. Time was flying, and I was stuck. It was almost like the key to open my way out was crushed by a hammer. That day, I got back home and laid in my bed, thinking about how I was just not a puzzle person. I wasn't ready for math-related competitions. I should have just quit. But then a thought hit me. I had studied with full effort, but the cause of failure was my practice technique. After diving deep into the math puzzle, I had learned every technique on how to solve it, and my thoughts went from not fit for puzzles to my preparation was flawed. Now I know exactly where to rebuild. Fast forward again to next year, the competition got announced again. And this time, after learning from my failure, I got first place. From math puzzles to life-changing decisions, failure is a step along the way. Which brings me to an example that changed our childhood. Let's have a show of hands for how many of you are Marvel fans. We all grew up with Marvel as a multi-billion-dollar empire. But in the 1990s, it was nearly erased. Poor expansion and weak foundations turned success into a recipe for disaster. Sales plunged, debt piled up, and in 1996, Marvel filed for bankruptcy. As a last resort, it sold off its most iconic characters, including Spider-Man and the X-Men, just to survive. Yet Marvel did not quit. Instead, it learned from its failures. Marvel rebuilt with clarity and discipline. In 2008, the company took a bold risk by deciding to produce its own films, starting with Iron Man. That single decision didn't just revive a company, it reshaped an entire industry. Marvel's collapse wasn't the end, it was the detour that forced reinvention. And Marvel isn't alone. Colonel Harlan Sanders faced rejection after rejection before his fried chicken recipe was finally accepted. He didn't stop, he refined it and eventually built KFC. James Dyson built over 5,000 failed prototypes before his vacuum finally worked. None of these failures were signs to stop. They were directions to adjust. But how do we, as simple human beings, achieve this in our daily lives? Well, the secret is adopting a healthy growth mindset instead of a fixed one. A person with a fixed mindset is one who believes that they're stuck behind limits, like there is no way to improve. For example, if a person with a fixed mindset was to get a 13 out of 20 in a test, they would think that 13 out of 20 is the best they can do, with no room for improvement. Meanwhile, a person with a healthy growth mindset is one who believes that success can be developed through hard work and dedication. They would take the 13 out of 20 as a feedback, not a failure, because they know that the mistake is just something they did. It's not define who they are. In fact, a study cited by Joe Bowler on mathematical mindsets found that when students make a mistake before getting the correct answer, it triggers significant brain growth, also known as neural activity, which is not present when they simply get the correct answer. I would like to end with a quote by Albert Einstein. Failure is success in progress. Remember, failure only exists if you choose to stop. So take the lessons, use the map, and step towards the amazing person you are becoming. Thank you.